Does your turnover in the snatch suck? Are you really slow? Are you really weak? I'm going to give you 4 things to work on today to improve the quality of your turnover in the snatch. The first place I want you to start with is no contact muscle snatches, or as Gabriel St. Crane calls them, muzzle snatches. So the muscle snatch is incredibly useful because we can do this quite frequently. Now, the reason I want you to do no contact muscle snatches is because what typically happens is when we make contact with the muscle snatch, lifters will absolutely smash their hips into the barbell. We'll create this huge swing of the barbell. We'll turn the barbell over too early and begin pressing the barbell out much too soon. This is not what we want. The no contact muscle snatch forces us to work on the engagement of the upper body. This is partially strengthening, but this is also a huge amount of skill and refining the motor pattern you want to emphasize in the turnover. So when we're doing no contact muscle snatches, you can use straps, hook grip, no hook grip, it doesn't particularly matter. I'm just mostly concerned about the no contact. And what I want you to focus on is a sequence of traps, then the elbows pulling high, and then you're turning the barbell over smoothly into the overhead position. You can do these in your warm-ups before you snatch. You can keep them very, very light. I recommend something around 15, 20 total reps. You know, if you're snatching 100 kilos, 30 or 40 kilos is loads. Listen, if you're snatching 150 kilos, 50 kilos will be loads. It's a primer. It's just a way of reinforcing that quality of movement, and keeping the quality and frequency high will give you much bigger bang for a buck than going really heavy. Now, you can go heavier if you want. If you find that you can keep your technique really good on these, you can go very, very heavy. I think from what I remember, Niku Vlad, one of the heaviest double bodyweight snatches of all time, I think it's actually the heaviest double bodyweight snatch. He snatched 200.5 kilos at 100 kilos bodyweight. His best no contact, no hook grip muscle snatch was 105 kilos. So that'll tell you how heavy and how light you need to go, because he was looking for technical perfection. And if you've ever seen him lifting, you'll know what I mean when I say technical perfection. So on these, technique has to be paramount. You can do them higher volume and higher frequency, but not higher weight. Forget about the weight on these. The next is probably one of my favorites that I've been using for probably more than a decade at this stage, is a high pull plus full snatch combination. You can do this generally about once a week. I want you to start around 60 or 70%, and then I want you to do quite high volume, quite a few sets, and generally you start with 1+2 or 2+1, and I want you to keep this volume pretty high. Over the course of the weeks, I want you to drop one of the high pulls or one of the snatches until you're just doing one high pull and one snatch. And then you can continue this on in your programming until you're just doing snatch singles and work your way into a heavy single. This is incredibly useful because we're forcing this full extension position and we're really emphasizing the use of the upper body. Really important here, I do not want any rebend in the high pull. This is paramount. This is not a panda pull, this is not a speed pull, this is a high pull. There is absolutely no rebend. I want a really proud, tall chest at the top. I want you pulling that barbell as high as possible. If it's not reaching your sternum or your nipples, it's probably too heavy, and I want you to bring that weight back a bit until you can get there. I want zero rebend. I want full extension, and I want a really aggressive upper body pull. After you've reached full extension with your lower body, I want you to then pull with that upper body incredibly aggressively. I want that chest staying up. I want your back arched. I want a really straight torso, and I want you to pull that barbell towards your sternum. And then I want you to be really aggressive when you follow through with that on your full snatches during this complex. Number 3 is hang snatches. Now, I'm saying hang snatches over block snatches for a particular reason. When we're doing block snatches, we can often get away with a slower pull. We can swing that barbell because we can manipulate our body in a position where we're not really getting what we need from the block snatches. Block snatches are really good for people who have good technique. They're good for people who need a bit of confidence with heavier weights. And in some cases, they're better for the speed portion compared to the hang snatch. The hang snatch is generally going to be a little bit lower, but it is going to force us to have better positions. So I specifically want above the knee hang snatches here. I don't want high hip hang snatches. I do want you to drop the barbell down a little bit, but I really want you to focus on that lower and upper back extension. I want you to focus on using your legs in that extension and then following through really aggressively with the upper body. I really want you pulling on the barbell in the hang snatch. You can do these for 4 to 5 sets of 2 to 3 reps initially, and then work your way through the weeks until you get to a decently heavy single. The really important part here is there's no point going super heavy with the hang snatches. If you get to about 90% of your best snatch from the floor, then you have sufficiently gone heavy enough, and then we don't really need to worry about it again. You can keep them in your training, but you don't have to worry about heavy single. You just focus on actually using the hang snatch to overemphasize that second and aggressive third pull. Number 4 is Trappy. Trappy is the name Klokov gave to this complex. You can do this with or without a full snatch, but essentially it is high pulls with the hip extension. So it's a high hang pull, a high hang snatch pull. There is a little bit of rebend sometimes. Ideally, I want you just falling for a full extension. You do these for a couple of reps. You can go pretty heavy. Put on straps for these. You don't have to worry about using a hook grip or grip strength here. These are generally best done as assistance work after your main training. You don't have to do the full snatch after. In fact, in most cases, you're probably better off just focusing on higher reps and heavier weight. The really important thing here is giving yourself a minimum height for these. So sometimes we can go really heavy with these and end up pulling too low when there's no point in doing that. So you need to be really strict with that full extension. We want that really high pull. Really important area also to watch with here is don't bend the arms as you come down to the hip. Keep those arms really straight and then let the hip extension pull that barbell to the chest. You're falling through with the traps, then you're pulling through with your arms to pull it up there. But don't bend the arms too early at the hip. So if you do bend your arms too much in your snatch, don't use these because they can often make that issue a little bit worse. These are great for 4 to 5 sets of sometimes 5+ reps. Generally 5 is a nice place to aim for, and if you're doing them with the full snatch, you can do something like 4+1 would be a good place to be at. These are great because they're a very strong upper back builder. We're getting a little bit of eccentric loading because we're bringing the barbell into our hip and then we're changing that direction again aggressively. These were made famous by Klokov, but they were a very common exercise. He just called them Trappy, and I think that's a fair name to give them. When I say Trappy, most people understand what I'm talking about. Bonus number 5 is do upper body hypertrophy work. Look, technique is important. Strength is important. But if we don't have the muscle mass to actually initiate those pulls, remember the muscle mass is doing the contracting. This is the thing actually moving the weight. So having lots of upper body muscle mass, or as much as you can fit into your weight class, is incredibly important. There's a reason we see a metric fuck ton of jacked weightlifters out there, and that upper body muscle mass really does make a big difference. I want you doing your upper back, I want you your lower back, traps, I want you pulling with single arm rows, barbell rows, strict barbell rows, heavier barbell rows, weighted pull-ups if you can do them, rear delt flies. Don't forget to pull with your arms as well, or press with your arms, so weighted push-ups, maybe a little bit of bench press, definitely some strict press. Get the upper body strong. Don't neglect your lower back. It's really important that you can maintain a good position during that second and third pull, and so a strong lower back is incredibly important. Lots of back extensions. Do your core work as well. Do your upper body bodybuilding work. Do not neglect it. 2 sessions per week, maybe even 3 is loads for weightlifting. If you can get 15 minutes of good quality upper body bodybuilding 2 to 3 times a week, you will drastically improve your quality of weightlifting if you give it a couple of months. So a lot of times lifters who are later to weightlifting are under muscled and they need to catch up. And so this turnover needs a muscle mass to support it. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you would like more videos like this, let me know what you would like to see it on and what you would like to focus on, and I'll be happy to take a look. And have a great week of training.